Hello everyone, welcome to StudyIQ English. Let us talk about how India has consistently been among the countries that pay their United Nations contribution on time, and that too we have completed the payment fully. Now this reflects India's long-standing support for United Nations, its system, its policies, and India's overall belief in the rule-based multilateral global order. This comes at a time when already bodies associated with United Nations had been threatened by President Trump, threatened that US will withdraw from these after US announced that it will withdraw from UN and 66 other global organizations. It was Israel who also said that I may not now be a part of any such global body associated with United Nations. In fact, there was a lot of controversy about it, that America's repeated decision of first withdrawing from UN, withdrawing from World Health Organization, breaking down protocols like the most favored nation of WTO, ignoring Paris Agreement, completely shunning COP30 summit in Brazil, as well as abandoning the G20 in Johannesburg. All these mean the world is crumbling back to its previous approach, that is unilateralism, regionalism and isolation rather than globalization and cooperation. And it is at this time, among this insecurity, as so many wars are being waged by America, one against Venezuela, Cuba, the other the threat against Iran. Now at this time, India becomes one country which has been given a top honor at the UN for having completed its contribution on time, that too with full grace. In fact, if you look about United Nations and India, India has been one country which has got so much appreciation today from the officials of United Nations. In fact, they also said and celebrated India's Statue of Unity, world's tallest statue that stands tall at about 182 meters. And yes, it is located in Gujarat, dedicated to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. That was also referred to in the UN meeting. And now let's talk about exactly what has happened and what does it mean for a global order that is being repeatedly threatened by isolationist and protectionist, monopolistic policies of President Trump and countries like China, of course. So India has paid $35.18 million to United Nations regular budget. This payment is for the period of 2026. It was done on 3rd February. And the best thing is the payment was completed within the 1 month deadline period. And because of that, India has now got UN honor roll. India's name was highlighted in the honor roll of United Nations among a list of other countries who have been able to complete their contribution very timely, and that to complete contribution. Total about 47 countries were on this list, okay? So after so many controversies related to UN, here is India. Not just the voice of the global south, not just the country which was supporting actions like Mutirao in Belém, Brazil, COP30 summit, a country that consistently spoke about common but differentiated responsibilities, carbon finance fund, a country that today represents so many important forums, whether it's G20, whether it's BRICS, or whether it is the China Balancing Forum Quad. So it is coming from a country, the 4th largest economy in the world, and therefore it should be a lesson to many more countries of the global south. Now, looking at what is UN regular budget, so it is about funds that organization, all the money that United Nations uses for its core basic activities, which includes Peace and Security Initiative. Now, as I'm talking about Peace and Security Initiative, naturally you must be reminded of UN Peacekeeping Force. What happened in the last few months? In the last few months, when the tariff war was going on, that is, America had introduced a very high, say on India about 50% tariff, then once again the threat of about 500% tariff on countries that import Russian oil. It was during that period that America also said, we are not going to finance for United Nations peacekeeping forces, because now we want to focus on America's own priorities. After all, he supports the MAGA doctrine, make America great again. But on the other hand, look at India. India has consistently been a key contributor to global peace and security, and India has been one nation where about 290,000 peacekeeping forces have been serving in more than 50 United Nations missions. So we are among those countries which contribute the highest amount of troops to UN peacekeeping. Okay, so let's remember that. So UN budget also therefore utilized for development program, human rights work, administrative functioning. So basically most of the revenue expenditure, the day-to-day works are financed by the budget, and every member country must contribute. They need to contribute, but then although the contribution is compulsory, it is mandatory, it is also based on your economic capacity. Okay, so that's how various countries contribute the money to UN Committee on Contributions. Fine. Now, as we understand that, let's look at India's regular contributions. It is not a new thing. For a very long time, India has been a key contributor to various such activities. Now, a very good example could be that India keeps actively contributing to the peacekeeping mission. We just spoke about that. And also, India has been at the forefront of all the global discussions on climate change. We obviously saw what happened at the COP30 summit. We saw how we spoke about the tropical forest forever facility. We spoke about how the developed countries, including America, they must provide a carbon fund to all the developing countries to the global south of about $1.3 trillion. Now, India was a leading country which made this demand. Yes, India also said all of us must timely submit our nationally determined contributions. Naturally, all these are associated with the legally binding treaty that's a part of UNFCCC Paris Agreement. And if you remember, during our Hindu classes, we keep also talking about the Kyoto Protocol of 1997. Well, that was binding on developed countries, and Paris Agreement was binding on all the member countries, and yet America chose to walk out of Paris Agreement. But India has always been supporting global climate mitigation efforts, also governance reforms. Now, governance reforms were a key agenda during Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit also in Beijing in 2025, which resulted in the Tianjin Declaration. A key agenda was reforming the governance in South Asian countries. India was a key participant there. Now, looking at 2025 contribution. So from India, we had a contribution of about 37.64 million US dollar. And the payment was made, that was last year, again in January 2025. Last year also, we had about 35 countries on the roll of honor. Today, we have about 47. So that's a good sign that many more countries are following the protocol of their UN contributions. Now, if you look at how has India been contributing to United Nations peacekeeping functions by giving its troops military assistance, then we can see about 5,000 to 6,000 personnel, 5,000 to 6,000 people, including police and military, are currently engaged. They are deployed in 9 to 12 active UN missions. I have spoken in detail about all these missions in the newspaper analysis class. And if my students remember, I had spoken about the MONUSCO mission Congo. We had spoken about Lebanon, UNIFIL. We had spoken about Sudan mission, okay? ABE mission. So all these missions mean India's contribution at peacekeeping is large here. We have also in detail discussed about the Sahel region and the ongoing civil war in most of these semi-arid to dry countries of Africa. So during that time, we had spoken about all these. But just remember, these missions have massive Indian contribution. Now do remember one more interesting takeaway, that India was the first country to deploy an all-women contingent, that's an all-women army group, to United Nations mission, that's in Liberia in 2007. India continues to actively promote gender representation in peacekeeping. Now that reminds me of a great question here. Before I can show you the practice question, can anybody tell me which sustainable development goal out of the total 17 speaks about gender equality? And should you want answer to all these fascinating questions, then you must scan the QR code here and join our Telegram community. That's where we keep answering these questions and engage with many more important UPSC relevant material. So I'll show you the QR code soon. But before that, here's a quick prelims question for you. Consider the following statements regarding UN regular budget contributions. 1. Contributions to United Nations regular budget by member states are voluntary in nature. That means they are depending on your desire. They are not mandatory. Second, UN Committee on Contributions determines the scale of assessment based on a country's economic capacity. And 3, countries that pay their assessed, that is, calculated, decided contribution in full within prescribed time are placed on UN honor roll. Which of these statements here are valid? It's an easy question if you've understood the topic well, but for the answer you might have to visit the Telegram channel because that's where I keep you posted with all the answers. So do scan the QR code. Now, do remember that as Prelims 2026 is approaching, the exam has formally been announced to be held on 24th May. The notification is already here for us. So, in order to do your best in GS1 and CSAT, here's probably one last chance to join Success in Prelims Initiative, a course that is as humble in terms of price as 4999. But if you want more discount, use my code SPLIVE and get maximum benefit. How will it help you? Revision, textbooks, materials, quick practice sessions, PYQ, and lots of support in the form of mentorship and connection with faculties. So this is about few weeks to go for the prelims, so it's a very good opportunity if you want to ace the exam. And for 27 also, it's high time you begin your solid preparation. Consider the course that is coming at a very affordable price, and you can make it more affordable by using code SPLIVE. Now, one thing I forgot to tell you, the Success in Prelims course starts on 10th February. So enroll quickly. But for 27 and 28 batches, we are beginning batches on 7th February. So now there is still some time. Quickly enroll for these and make sure your preparation is absolutely perfect for getting selection in the UPSC. Thank you so much.